On a sunny summer day, Molly proudly set up her lemonade stand with the help of her parents outside her suburban home, pouring cold drinks for anyone passing by. However, her day took a dark turn when Officer Rodriguez rushed over, responding to an urgent call from the neighbor next door. Why would somebody call the police on a little girl selling lemonade? But when he arrived at the stand, his jaw dropped and his face turned pale. When Officer Rodriguez walked away from the stand with his lemonade in hand, he was still stunned by what he had just witnessed, that he now wholly understood why somebody had called in the worried tip about this young girl. Officer Rodriguez knew he had to do something, but he also knew that she could not do this alone, and thus, he decided to call in for backup. He needed as many officers as possible on the scene right now, before it was too late for them to take action. Within 15 minutes, Officer Rodriguez had assembled a small army of police officers. They marched back to the lemonade stand and saw the shocked reaction from the young girl and everyone waiting in line. This had just gotten serious. But what was so strange about this girl's lemonade stand? Why did so many people want to buy from her? And why did Officer Rodriguez need so much backup? When Officer Rodriguez first answered the call and heard that a concerned citizen was reporting a lemonade stand, he almost laughed out loud. It sounded so ridiculous. There were far more serious crimes than that, but something about the woman's voice on the other end of the line made him listen. The caller refused to give her name, but she was obviously convinced that the little girl selling lemonade by the road was up to something dangerous. Officer Rodriguez didn't usually worry too much about weird calls to the station, but she decided to talk it over with her partner. They quickly came to a decision that would change their lives forever. Since they'd wanted to go out for lunch anyway, Officer Rodriguez and his partner, Officer Michelle, followed up on the call while they were out picking up food. Neither truly believed they would find anything except an ordinary lemonade stand. They had no idea how far that was from the truth. The lemonade stand was so crowded that Officer Rodriguez and his partner could barely see the end of the line. There had to be almost 50 people here. The officers couldn't see anything unusual, but Officer Rodriguez was suddenly more interested in what was happening. Was it possible that the woman had been right about their anonymous tip to the station? Officer Rodriguez started going over some of his theories. Maybe the woman was a neighbor who didn't like all the traffic and the noise of people talking while waiting for their drinks. However, that still didn't explain why everyone was lining up at a child's lemonade stand in the middle of an ordinary neighborhood. Officer Rodriguez parked the car down the street and tried to blend in as much as possible. While Officer Mitchell studied the people in line, he watched the girl serving the lemonade. Many customers paid in cash or left generous tips. Miranda started to wonder if maybe the girl was up to something suspicious and using the lemonade stand as a cover. Officer Rodriguez and his partner couldn't see everything from where they were parked, but it seemed like the girl was prepared to sell lemonade all day. She kept returning to the house for a pitcher after pitcher. At the same time, she was also handling something else that Officer Rodriguez couldn't see from such a distance. The officers kept waiting for the line to get shorter, but it never did. Every time the people at the front left with their lemonade, more customers were arriving. The girl was selling an unbelievable amount of lemonade and filling her tip jar with an endless stream of money. Maybe they were focusing too much on the girl and not enough on the customers. Officer Rodriguez watched the customers for any clues. He could tell that they weren't from nearby because most of them were driving to get there. His partner pointed out that they were of all ages and driving everything from old vans to luxury cars. But then Officer Mitchell came to a conclusion that completely shocked him. Officer Mitchell shrugged and said he wasn't too worried about what the girl was doing. There wasn't anything clearly illegal about it, and Officer Mitchell was getting hungry. But when he asked to leave, Officer Rodriguez refused. That caller had reported the lemonade stand for a reason. He just had to find out why. Officer Rodriguez didn't want to upset anyone or anger the residents by asking questions about what the girl was doing. People would get upset when police officers arrived and started interrupting their daily lives. The last thing Officer Rodriguez needed was for someone to complain about him to his boss. Suddenly, he knew how to get closer without anyone knowing. Officer Rodriguez drove to a different side street and changed into his off-duty clothes. He ruffled his hair and put on some sunglasses. It made him look like a totally different person. He was ready to sneak over to the lemonade stand and see what he could find out. But before he could leave, his partner blocked her path. Officer Mitchell wasn't happy with his partner's choice. He was hungry, and he thought he was wasting their time. They came up with a slightly different plan instead. Officer Mitchell would go get them something to eat while Officer Rodriguez investigated. He'd pick him up on the way back. This meant that Officer Rodriguez didn't have long. Officer Rodriguez, now James, got in line at the lemonade stand and tried his best to look like everyone else. He had to be patient, even though he knew his partner would want him to leave as soon as he returned with their lunch. What would it take to convince him that something unusual was going on? After a few minutes, James started to get a strange vibe from the other customers. He couldn't shake the feeling that people were staring at him or trying to figure out his identity. His paranoia increased. There was no way for him to tell if they all knew each other. He could only think of one solution. James turned to the closest group and tried to join their conversation. He made small talk about the long line and hoped that the others would feed him information. Finally, he wondered aloud about why the lemonade stand was so popular. However, that only made people give him even weirder looks. James could tell that he must have made a mistake and given away to the other customers he didn't belong there. No one was interested in talking to him, and many of the people in line ignored him completely. However, even though they weren't paying attention to him, there had been a shift that made him more nervous than ever. People were obviously glaring at him and whispering to each other. James couldn't hear what anyone was saying, but they knew he'd snuck into line. He considered leaving, but he knew that his partner would never let him try another plan to find out what was going on. James knew that he had to stay. Officer James Rodriguez decided that the best thing to do was wait quietly until it was his turn at the front of the line. This way, he wouldn't have to talk to anyone else. Once he ordered the lemonade, he would be able to see what all the fuss was about and whether the little girl was actually up to go no good. Slowly, James got closer and closer. When James reached the front, he was surprised to be confronted by one of the girl's relatives. They'd seen him in the police car and recognized him even after he'd changed his clothes. They demanded to know if he was there to get them in trouble for not having a permit. James just had one question. Why was their lemonade so popular? It took at least 15 minutes of waiting until James' turn. And with every minute that passed, he started to feel more uncomfortable. The problem was that everybody gave him a side eye and they were whispering all the time behind his back. Everyone showed him this behavior except for one person who didn't. The person was the young girl selling the lemonade. She just had a big smile on her face and she greeted him happily. At the same time, she asked him if he wanted a lemonade or something to drink. Officer James Rodriguez was really surprised by the young girl's friendly attitude, and he understood that the best thing that he could do now was to give her a second chance. James was really intrigued by what this special lemonade could be. However, when he asked for this special drink from the girl, he heard a loud voice from behind him. The voice came from an angry man screaming at the young girl, who quickly fell silent. James felt very shocked because of this, and for a moment, he didn't know how to react. The angry-looking man told the boy that James didn't deserve the special lemonade and that he had to take a plain lemonade drink. The special version of the drink was not for people like him. This man's behavior offended him, but he didn't know how to react. James turned around, intending to start a conversation with the rude man, but he quickly found out that everybody in the line was on the rude man's side. James knew he was outnumbered, which made the situation worse. At that point, he had no idea what to do with all these people. His first reaction was to turn to the girl, who was still smiling. She handed him a glass of lemonade, but did this with an unmistakable wink. Officer James Rodriguez really didn't know what this was about. Maybe the little girl just served him a special lemonade, but she didn't want everyone to find out. James paid the boy, and he walked out of the line before something would happen. The first thing he did was inspect the lemonade he had just gotten, and he noticed something strange. He was entirely sure that he would find something odd in that lemonade. But now he saw the confirmation with his own eyes. The drink felt unusually heavy, and the cup itself looked somewhat strange. There seemed to be only a cup of lemonade in there, judging by how large the glass was. It still seemed to be a large cup of lemonade. But James saw something he didn't expect, so now he has to do something about it. This cup had an extra compartment at the bottom, one that he could click off from the rest of the cup. He waited to investigate it more until he safely returned to his police car. He was planning to study the cup with his partner, who had waited for him all this time in the car. When they saw what was in the bottom of the glass, Officer James Rodriguez's mind went into overdrive. He finally realized that he was entirely correct about his suspicions. When his partner saw this too, he was very shocked because he didn't believe that she was going to find something. Officer Rodriguez quickly radioed the police station, demanding all the backup that he could get. He wants them all to meet up a little bit away from the lemonade stand so as not to raise suspicion. He was determined that he had to do something about the case of the lemonade stand, and he was sure that he needed help. About half an hour had passed when 7 police cars lined up a couple blocks away. Furthermore, 15 officers were also ready to make their way to the lemonade stand. The good news was that his colleagues had trusted Officer Rodriguez and sent many police officers for backup as requested. Of course, all of them were informed about the plan. The beginning of the plan was that they would drive toward the stand. The second step was to surround everyone waiting around the stand and, most importantly, the young girl and possibly her parents. This step was necessary to solve this case and find out what was happening to this stand. Officer Rodriguez felt he was close to discovering exactly what happened there. The only thing that they were sure about was that they needed to put an end to this whole situation. So they headed off to execute the first step of the plan. Officer Rodriguez was really proud of himself because deep inside, he never thought he would find substantial evidence for this case. Officer Rodriguez felt happy as everything seemed to go over smoothly, more so than he could have hoped. When they arrived there was still a line of people waiting at the lemonade stand in order to get this special drink. Them driving past didn't turn any heads as they were too focused on the drinks on the stand. When all the police cars arrived in front of the stand, Officer Rodriguez was the first to get out of the car and he informed everybody who was present to stay calm and not to move. Then he noticed the scared face of the girl selling the lemonade. He thought that the best idea was to talk to the poor girl and explain to her what had happened. Officer Rodriguez walked toward her and put a hand on her shoulder, explaining to her that everything was going to be okay. He explained to her that the only thing that she had to do was to show him what was into those special lemonades. The girl looked at him with a confused expression. She didn't know how to react. The girl seemed very baffled about what Officer Rodriguez had told her. She explained to him that they didn't put anything weird into the lemonades. The only thing about the special lemonades was the cups that her dad gave her for serving them. Officer Rodriguez knew the cups differed from others, so he wanted to learn more about them. The little girl told him that she made a deal with her father. The deal was that he would give her the extra money for selling the special drink. The thing was that the special lemonade cost much more than the regular one. Now, everything started to make sense to Officer Rodriguez. Officer Rodriguez went up to the girl's house, and when the dad opened the front door, the officer could see all the color drain from his face as he saw him. It was pretty evident that the poor girl's dad was the culprit in this whole situation. Molly's father knew that the jig was up and Officer Rodriguez put handcuffs on him. The people still waiting in line were told that the stand would be suspended from selling any more lemonade today due to certain circumstances. This shocked the customers as they became curious about what had happened. Seeing Molly's father in cuffs, nobody could believe that her father had done something unsanctioned. It turned out that the father was using his daughter's lemonade stand to sell his illegal substances. He hid them in the bottom of the cup and informed all his customers about it. The only person who didn't have a single idea about this trick was the little girl, who was more shocked than everyone else. Of course, the girl's mother and his wife knew nothing about this and were absolutely disgusted by her husband for doing so and filed for divorce as soon as possible. The father's life was totally ruined after this incident because neither his wife nor his son talked to him again. The truth was that what he did all this time was a severe crime. Molly's father was now awaiting trial for his crimes and would probably not be free again for quite some time. The judge, in particular, was taking this case very seriously because he involved his young daughter. Officer James Rodriguez was happy that he had taken the call so seriously as he had solved the case of such a severe crime. However, he couldn't stop feeling sorry about the young girl losing her father like that. Officer James Rodriguez was still checking in often with the girl to see how she was doing. And to his amazement, she seemed to be doing surprisingly well. She even started selling lemonade again. However, this time, the special version had been taken off the menu. James was very proud of the girl, and he truly believed that Molly deserved to be happy.